Mr. Therchin, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. I deeply appreciate this opportunity to speak with you today on the important matter of studying Canadian supply chains, forced labor, and related imports. I'm here today to share findings and perspectives to contribute in the support of Bill C-251. I would like to focus my presentation on the significant but often overlooked risk emerging from the Tibetan regions in China, where coercive labor practices, mass relocation, and environmentally destructive mining intersect with global supply chains that could reach Canadian consumers through electric vehicles, batteries, and other technologies. Given that Tibet hosts some of China's largest lithium reserves, which are essential to global EV production, there's a credible risk that Chinese manufactured EVs that could be imported into Canada may indirectly incorporate critical minerals extracted under conditions that violate international labor and human rights norms. Recent research, including the Turquoise Roof Bulletin, shows that majority of China's domestic lithium reserves are located on the Tibetan Plateau, which is around 3.6 million tons out of total 4 million tons reserves in China, is located in historically Tibetan regions of Amdo and Kham. Chinese State Geological Service described this area as a vast ore belt, home to what they call as Asia's largest lithium deposit. These minerals feed the supply chains of BYD, CATL, and other major EV and battery manufacturers. As Canada considers importing low-cost Chinese EVs, the supply chains cannot be viewed in isolation. Tibet is geographically remote but economically central to China's green technology ambitions. In 2023, 6 UN special rapporteurs warned that China's so-called vocational training and labor transfer schemes in Tibetan region may constitute forced labor, noting that Tibetans cannot refuse participation or freely leave assigned jobs. Reuters revealed in 2020 that over 500,000 Tibetans, which is 15% of the region's entire population, were transferred into labor programs in the first 7 months of that year alone. Labor programs that included military-style training centers, ideological instructions, labor transfer quotas, relocation to factories, construction sites, and industrial zones. This system mirrors the structure of forced labor documented in East Turkestan and other high-risk regions. Displacement combined with the restricted mobility, political pressure creates a structural coercion. People who lose land and livelihood have no meaningful choice but to enter state-directed work. Lithium mining in Tibet is linked to severe environmental damage as well. Turkish Roof documents contaminated rivers from quote-unquote dirty and quick and dirty processing methods, dead fish and livestock downstream of mining operations, community protests met with force, detention, or disappearance, heavy militarization in mining areas, limiting community oversight. Environmental destruction leads to the loss of herding land, which is one of the main pillars of the Tibetan livelihoods. When herders can no longer survive from the land, they become vulnerable to state-directed labor placement, including mining. In this context, labor cannot be considered voluntary. Chinese EVs and the electric battery product entering the Canadian market may rely on lithium extracted from the Tibetan regions where communities are relocated by workers transferred through state-run training programs in areas where dissent is criminalized under conditions inconsistent with the ILO standards. Canada's forced labor ban, its public commitment to ethical sourcing, and its climate transition strategy require that Canada not inadvertently reward or subsidize abusive extraction regimes. I would like to share some recommendations. The Canada-Tibet Committee respectfully recommends the Standing Committee on International Trade advise the government to require full supply chain transparency for Chinese EVs and batteries entering Canada, adopt a mandatory human rights due diligence legislation, companies must identify, mitigate, and remedy forced labor risk, apply a presumption of non-compliance for EVs with the untraceable mineral supply chains, coordinate with G7 partners, treat Tibet-sourced high-risk minerals similarly to conflict minerals, subject to shared exclusion framework. And finally, support independent monitoring of Tibet, fund satellite-based monitoring, open-source analysis, and civil society research to bridge the transparency gap created by Chinese state restrictions. Tibet today sits at the heart of China's critical mineral strategy. At the same time, this region is where forced labor risk, mass relocation, restrictive freedoms, and environmental destructive extraction converge.